handsome fisher girl who had once been his model, and for 20 years had been his wife, pierced the blackness of his purpose. Just here it was that he had seen her first, when on a summer holiday he had lodged with a couple of friends in the farmhouse towards which his way now lay. She was coming up the hill with a late sunset gilding her face, and breathing quickly from the ascent, had leaned on the wall close by with a smile and a glance for the young man. She had sat to him, and the autumn brought the sequel to the summer in his marriage. He had bought from her uncle the little farmhouse where he had lodged, adding to its modest accommodation a studio and a bedroom above it. And there he had seen the flicker of what had never been love die out, and over the cold ashes of its embers the poisonous lichen of hatred spread fast. Early in their married life she had taken to drink, and had sunk into a degradation of soul and body that seemed bottomless, dragging him with her, down and down into the grip of a force that was hardly human in its malignity. Often during the wretched years that followed, he had tried to leave her. He had offered to settle the farm on her and make adequate provision for her. But she had clung to the possession of him, not, it would seem, from any affection for him, but for a reason exactly opposite, namely that her hatred of him fed and glutted itself on the sight of his ruin. It was as if, in obedience to some hellish power, she set herself to spoil his life, his powers, his possibilities, by tying him to herself, and by the aid of that power, so sometimes he had thought, she enforced her will on him. For plan as he might to cut the whole dreadful business and leave the wreck behind him, he had never been able to consolidate his resolve into action. There, but a few miles away, was the station, from which ran the train that would bear him out of this ancient western kingdom, where beliefs in spells and superstitions grew rank as the herbage in that soft enervating air, and set him in the dry hard light of cities. That way lay open, but he could not take it. Something unseen and potent, of grim inflexibility, held him back. He had passed no one on his way here, and satisfied now that in the darkness he could proceed without fear of being recognized, if a chance wayfarer came from the direction in which he was going, he left the shelter of the hedge and struck out into the stormy sea of that stupendous gale. Even as a man in the grip of imminent death sees his past life spread itself out in front of him for his final survey before the book is closed, so now, on the brink of the new life from which the deed on which he was determined alone separated him, John Aylesford, as he battled his advance through this great tempest, turned over page after page of his own wretched chronicles, feeling already strangely detached from them. It was as if he read the sordid and enslaved annals of another, wondering at them, half pitying, half despising him who had allowed himself to be bound so long in this ruinous noose. Yes, it had been just that, a noose drawn ever tighter round his neck, while he choked and struggled all unavailingly. But there was another noose, which should be very soon now drawn rapidly and finally tight, and the drawing of that with his own strong hands would free him. As he dwelt on that for a moment, his fingers stroked and patted the hank of whipcord that lay white and tough in his pocket. A noose, a knot drawn quickly taut, and he would have paid her back with justice, and swifter mercy, for the long strangling which he had suffered. Voluntarily and eagerly at the beginning had he allowed her to slip the noose about him, for Ellen Trenair's beauty in those days, so long past and so everlastingly regretted, had been enough to ensnare a man. He had been warned at the time, by hint and half-spoken suggestion, that it was ill for a man to mate with a girl of that dark and ill-famed family, or for a woman to wed a boy in whose veins ran the blood of Jonas Trenair, once Methodist preacher, who learned on one All-Hallows Eve a darker gospel than he had ever preached.